Welcome back. Today we're here with my special guest Kirk Hammond from Switzerland. Good news is the engine is together. Kirk's been helping me out for a couple days. Bad news is we got to get this transmission up to par because we can't put these two together. Kirk came to visit to get his suspension arms checked for the 356. He's got 356s since he was a young kid. Happy to help him out. We took apart a transmission axle tube. We did some inspection on the front suspension.
Yeah, and it was well worth bringing the parts from Switzerland to have Tom check them out.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's get to the transmission. We might be able to put the engine in next week, guys. So Kirk has cleaned this with the super clean and the barbecue skewers and the wire brushes to really pretty good. This one, if you remember, had a big leak in the car and it was really leaking on this output flange, this one right here. It's either leaking from here or this cover. So I thought what I would do today is to remove this output flange. We'll take a look at the cover seal, which is an O-ring underneath there. So we'll pull the cover off and we'll replace the seal behind this flange. That should take care of the immediate leak. And then when I disassembled this to get the clutch off or disassemble this from the engine, I noticed a lot of heavy wear on this pin. It's deeply scratched and corroded. So there is a new kit that was in the aftermarket. It's a brand new pin with some new bushings that uses these bronze bushings. That's going to be much more durable than some of the needle bearings that are currently in there. So that's an upgrade that we'll do on this as well. Interestingly enough, this side was not leaking, so I'm unlikely going to take this one off. But before we take the flanges off, we definitely got to take the oil out. So let's drain the oil from the bottom there. Just help me hold that.
Yeah, it does. It barely passes.
Oh, it's super tight. Shouldn't be this tight.
No way. One, can you push it on?
Oh, you okay?
That broke, didn't it?
No, it just came, that came loose. So we need to get the drain. Yeah, it's loose.
Yeah,
Let's get that ready. Way too tight.
Somebody did that with a...
It's a Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube. Okay.
Hey, sorry, I did jam your finger on it.
That's right. Okay, so we still have more fluid, which is good.
Yeah,
that's almost
it's
it.
Probably close to 2 quarts, this container, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but we'll fill it correctly next time. The oil looks pretty clean, pretty new.
Yeah.
The drain plug does have the usual metal on it, but there's no parts. It's just the typical metal fuzz. Yeah, that's just the synchro material, and it's that dark black material. Yeah, nothing bad. The other interesting thing about this differential is it is limited slip. If you turn one side and they both spin the same direction, that means it's limited slip. You can try to turn it opposite directions and it won't. So this is what they call, I think, 40% limited slip. That's an option on this car, which is a good option to have. But it does also require special oil in the transmission. This guy here is the speedometer sensor. It's electronic in an 87, but because we're going to be working right here, it's better to remove it. Just an O-ring. Might be a good idea to change that O-ring too.
Simple.
Easy. Better than the drain plug. How can the drain plug be tighter than the flange?
That was crazy.
So this is where the seal makes contact.
Right, look at the seal.
Right here. And this is the mess behind there. It's a
Well,
double
just
lip
to
seal,
emaciate it.
but the actual flange looks clean enough. This surface looks nice and pristine. I mean, you can see where the seal is making contact. It's shiny, but there's no groove or fingernail detected there. So this piece is good. The issue is most likely just a hard seal. So I'm going to remove the side cover here because I do want to also replace the O-ring, and that makes it easier to remove this seal with this cover removed. So we've moved the transmission on its side so that the differential doesn't get too out of position when we take the cover off. This is an important part of the differential setup, but we're not going to change any of the settings. We're just going to replace the rubber seal that's gone bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to. So this is the bearing race that all the output torque is supported by, and that's the differential bearing. So it's a good time to inspect the condition of that race and also the condition of that bearing while we have it open. But from what I can tell, it looks good.
Yeah, looks good.
If it's cloudy or scored or got lines in it, then that's not good. But this, to me, has some wear, but not as bad as I've seen in some of the other transmissions I've taken apart. We just need to make sure none of this dirt falls in. So we'll be very careful and kind of wipe in this direction, kind of get this last little bit of debris out of here so it does not go in. And then unlike the 356 transmission, which uses gaskets here to establish the position of the preload bearings, this just uses a simple O-ring. And the shims are done elsewhere in the differential stack. Okay, so ultrasonic cleaner time for that cover and all the parts we took off, including this guy. Hand me that cover. Just drop that in there.
How long do you leave that in?
Like 20 minutes. Even these nuts and bolts that are so caked on, you can drop those in there too. This piece is cleaner with the ultrasonic cleaner. So now I'm just going to push out these existing bronze bearings. I thought these were the needle bearings, but this might have been updated in the past. The new bearings look identical, but a little bit better flange on there, so I'm going to replace them. This is just a simple press with sockets to just push them out. They shouldn't be too tight. There's one. There's two. And then the new bearings will just go in the same way the old ones came out. So this way here. These are not Porsche parts. This is from Roush and Spiegel. It's not on their direction sheet, but I seem to remember that's the name of it. I'm probably saying it wrong. These bores have been cleaned out. That's where the shaft rides in. So I've already pre-fit the shaft, everything looks good, so I'm gonna go ahead and grease it up and install it. Porsche does recommend a specific grease. It's basically a Moly based grease. This is similar. This is a synthetic Moly grease. It's actually designed for constant velocity joints, but I think it has a lot of good uses. I use it in a lot of stuff. It's a synthetic red high pressure Moly grease. So we'll just generously put that in there. And then Porsche is nice enough, or the Roush and Spiegel is nice enough to thread the end of this pin so you can hammer it in and then you can extract it with a pull hammer or something like that. So the design on this is pretty clever.
Yeah.
This is where the hydraulic cylinder pushes on the clutch, so that points towards the front of the car. And those bushings are a really nice fit. Just drops right in. And then the hole down here is a blind hole, and that kind of prevents it from getting contaminated. But you can see that some air is just popping out of there because of the pressure. So it's like a little plunger there. So eventually that'll find a nice home. And then this gets a cap over it. And then this little tab is just a retainer to keep everything together. So there we go. It spins really nice. No wobble or play. There's a little play in the up and down direction, but that is better than it was before, and a nice smooth action on that. Hydraulic cylinder actuates that. This is the retention mechanism to keep that pin in place, and also an easy way to pull it in and out. And then that's the shift action right there, or the clutch action onto the throwout bearing. So without damaging the bearing race here, we want to push that seal out. So I have some aluminum seal drivers that I think will just maybe go in there perfectly if we can just push it like that.
Yeah, or even with, do you have anything slightly larger? That probably would.
I think that'll push it out. I mean, they come in all sizes, right?
No, it seems to be up on that. Do you have something slightly larger?
So let me get the old seal or the new seal, and then we'll see which tool is better. Yep. So before it was a little bit under that surface, so we want to put it back kind of in the same place, if possible. So I'm going to give it just a little bit more time in the ultrasonic cleaner and make sure this is clean and anything got underneath there is clean. And then we'll put the new seal back in. Almost done here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this heavy O-ring from the diameter because we want to clean underneath here too. Put it back in. The seals are identical in pretty much every way. The only thing I notice is the old seal is real gummy and soft. You can easily deflect it. This one is much firmer, or more firm. So I suspect that's going to grab onto that output flange and keep the oil inside as opposed to leaking out. Remember, it was spinning it all up into the bottom of the car. Those little ridges on there are helpful too. Oops, that does not. And then remember, this was a little bit below the surface, so we'll try to mimic that same feel. Yeah, that feels even. Yeah, barely below the surface there. And then just a little bit on this lip too. This surface is perfectly clean. We've got just a little bit of residue WD-40 on it, but the sealing surface is not this one. It's actually this inside surface where that O-ring makes contact. So that's what creates the seal, not the flat surface. But the flat surface is what controls the load on the bearings. So we want to make sure it's going back just the way it was before. No extra sealants, nothing like that. Just metal to metal contact there. We just want to go straight down. And that O-ring is going to have to compress as it goes in, but it's same thing, nice and straight. And we'll just use the hardware to pull it in real even. I think we have room, yeah, the washer still fits, so we can just. Nice and clean as well. And you can feel that sensation of the seal just expanding over that diameter, so it creates a nice seal on there. We'll put 2 bolts in there. Anywhere through here. I'd use the other end, just the long end. Okay. Just poke that through. Should just rest on its bottom. I think it'll be pretty stable. So hopefully that fixes my oil leak here on the side cover. We replaced 2 things. I think that's going to do the trick. I'm going to put the Speedo sensor in later because it's always getting stuck on something. And obviously we'll probably re-grease this too. But the question becomes, do we keep going and, also do the other side, or the other side's not leaking, and also the input seal. I don't know that it was leaking here. I think all that oil was from the engine side. But what would you think? Are these commonly prone to leaking on a G50, or is that something that is rarely replaced? The plan of attack on this side would be totally different because there's no cover to remove. So if we do this side, we got to pry the seal out from this surface and then just hammer a new one in. But the flange unbolts the same. And then the engine just needs to be, dropped down onto a dolly. I'm going to replace the clutch and flywheel with the Patrick Motorsports one that I did a video a while back on. It's a much lighter rotating mass flywheel. So I want to make that upgrade, and at that point in time, we'll change the rear main seal, change the clutch, change the flywheel, and then we're able to hopefully put the 2 together.
Goodbye. It's been swell learning and working with Tom.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for your help, Kirk. It's been awesome to have your helping hands. You came all the way from Switzerland to clean a transmission.
Right. And to learn and stand by.
Cool. Thank you. See you next time.